Welcome to A Styled Life, the podcast for purpose-led female founders and senior leaders ready to use style as a powerful tool for confidence, impact, and influence. I'm your host, Alex Standley, multi-award-winning personal stylist, speaker, and sustainable fashion consultant with 2 decades of experience in the fast-paced world of fashion. Join me as we redefine success from the inside out. This podcast isn't just about clothes. It's about personal power, purposeful style, and creating a life that aligns with your values. So whether you're running a business, leading a movement, or stepping into your next chapter, you're in the right place. Each week, we'll dive into the world of personal style, sustainability, female empowerment, and living with intention through real stories, expert insights, and plenty of inspiration. Welcome back to A Styled Life. I'm really excited for today's guest, who is also a past client of mine. Rachel Maria Bell is an astrologer, identity strategist, and the founder of Quantum Expansion. She works with women who know they're here for something bigger, what she calls new paradigm leadership. Through astrology, identity work, and embodied leadership, she helps women see themselves beyond conditioning and lead from a place of sovereignty. Rachel, I'm really glad that you're here because I think this conversation is going to open up a lot for the women that are listening. Can you tell us who you are and how you came to do the work that you do today?
Yes, and thank you, Alex, for inviting me to come and speak with you. So I'm Rachel Maria Bell. I use astrology and a number of different psychic gifts and insights at a really deep level to help support very gifted, intuitive women who are carrying significant soul missions. And it's not an easy journey for them. And so I do a lot of private one-to-one work behind the scenes to really help clarify and anchor in the magnitude of what they're really here to lead, helping to position them in the marketplace correctly rather than, that kind of hedging your bets and sounding like other people. No.
Yeah.
We're here to do that singular identity piece and really grounding them in that identity that their work requires. And of course, all of that requires a lot of that deep integration piece because you're changing all the time, that you're recalibrating into this new version of self. There's a lot of pieces that, those realizations that come through. So how did I get into all that? Well, if we go back 10 years, I was just like a totally ordinary woman going about life as a business lecturer, suffering with endometriosis, trying to bring my kids up as a single parent. So just ordinary. But I had this really kind of deep, profound shift and a turning point where I realized that all of the intuitive nudges and the guidance and the significant spirit information I'd received all my life was actually to be trusted. So rather than discounting it and going, oh, yeah, that's a bit weird, or that's a weird dream, or why am I thinking that? I went, no, it's really powerful and profound, and it's to be trusted. So I'm therefore to be trusted.
Yeah.
So it completely changed the trajectory of my own life and really took me on a deep journey of uncovering truth. And that's not easy, because it involves a lot of letting go of what you previously thought and a lot of realizations about how the world works and who's to be trusted, etc. But hey, it's led me here, and I get to work with deeply gifted, intuitive women who are here to change the world and stand in their truth and sovereignty and, building lives and businesses that actually fit us as the individual, authentic woman that we are.
It's so powerful. And I think I've had a session with you before. I can't remember. I think it was 2024, maybe.
Was it?
And yeah, I can't recommend you enough in terms of, as you said, that depth and understanding. And I mean, I have done so many different modalities and as you said, been on that journey to kind of rediscover my purpose and who I am and all of that kind of thing. And that's why I'm bringing that more into my own work now as well, because I see how powerful it is when you really understand yourself on a much deeper level.
Big time.
And
Yeah.
that's what I loved about the session with you, was that just all of it, just, you have those kind of light bulb moments of like, yeah, that is me and that is who I am at my core. And then therefore that's how I should approach my business strategy or my relationships or my life or whatever it is.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And really owning that individuality is such a big piece, isn't it?
But like you said, that can feel quite scary. And it's the same with style as well. It's obviously all
Yes.
about self-expression, and we forget that it's an individual expression of who we are, but it can feel quite scary to go against the grain and to stand out and to own being different and looking different to everyone else that's following what the press and the media and the high street told them that they should be wearing for this season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very similar to when we say things that we feel we should be saying or that make
Mm,
us sound relatable or we're going to fit in. But it's like, no, actually, what's coming from the truth of the inside of you, that's what people need to hear.
yeah, definitely. So you work with astrology, identity, embodied leadership. For people who are new to any of that, how does that actually work? And what does it actually do for the women that you work with?
Yeah, so I think the biggest clarity is that coming away from the noise, the confusion, no forcing yourself into a niche.
Mm,
It's that deep clarity and self-trust.
mm,
Because trusting yourself, trusting what you're carrying, trusting those nudges and whispers of your soul, like, oh yeah, this is the direction I'd love to go in, or oh, I'd love to see it if society changed in this way. That thing that really lights you up, it's like, yeah, there's something in that,
yeah.
when your belly goes, yes, that's what I'm here for.
Mm,
Follow those things. So it's that unapologetically staying in your own lane. And, of course, we desire connection with other people, but that doesn't include copying and becoming the same as them.
no.
And, you know, there is connection, there's unity, but also there's also being our truthful self as well, so that
Mm,
people know that's what this person does, this is who you consult about this thing, this is the leader of that thing. So it's the really staying unapologetically true to your own nature, with the
mm,
soul as the anchor point. So yeah, when I read a person's chart, I'm literally physically seeing them in this
mm,
golden light. So it's like reconnecting them through the bridge of their chart back to who they are on that initial soul spark level. And
mm.
that lights people up, because when they hear the truth of who they are, they're like, it was always meant to be, because if Rachel can see that just by looking at a chart, it
Yeah.
means it's true. And then we get like switched on in a completely different way, and it is a genuine reactivation inside
Mm,
of the cells. And then people can honestly do so many remarkable things that seem wild or impossible, but actually it's because we're operating as our soul self.
yeah.
But then, of course, we've got to go through those levels of like grief, actually. It's grief
Mm,
of who I was, beliefs that you used to carry, and being supported through that. And
mm,
all of it together matters, really. But it's
yeah.
about that reconnection to the deeper part of yourself.
Yeah. And I think that's been a huge realization for me on my business journey as well, is that everything comes back to that reconnection with yourself, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, or what your personal circumstances are or whatever. That is what life is about, and that's what it's all about. And I think that's why drawing on different modalities and different ways that you can connect with that is so powerful, because the truer you can be to yourself, as you just said about connection, people can then connect with who you really are, rather than all of these layers of conditioning that have come over your lifetime so far. And I think that is why it's quite powerful to work with that, with your style as well, because it just gives you another element to understand yourself better, and therefore then to be able to, you know, express that in the way that you dress and the way that you show up and how you communicate with other people as well.
Definitely, it actually is all areas of life together, isn't it? It's
Mm.
everything. And it all kind of spirals on, with everything, because of course, if you're dressed in how you show up externally and how you dress, like makes you feel a certain way. So the more that you feel like yourself, the more that you show up like yourself. And that's
Yeah.
obviously better for your business, better for your relationships, literally everything.
Yeah, definitely. So I thought it might make sense for us to start with some of your experience of us working together as well, because I think it kind of
Yeah.
grounds everything that we're talking about. So going back to that time, what was going on for you when you came to work on your style? Like, where were you with your style at that time?
I think I would say that I had like a style hangover, because my identity was so wrapped up with being a mum, and
Mm,
it was so important to me. Motherhood was like so important, and I liked to be an active mum, so I was often in clothes that were suitable for the park or the beach or for
yeah.
playing. And I just didn't fully transition. Like when I would go do, I would like be a corporate leadership trainer as well. So of course, in
Mm,
that role, I just diverted back into corporate.
mm.
So I was like either suited and booted or look like I'm just going to play slime with the kids. And there was no like happy medium. I'd never got into what on earth does an astrologer wear? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what an astrologer wears, it
No,
matters how Rachel feels, right?
exactly.
So I'd started attracting, serious business clients. And I was like, oh, I can't look like I've just come from the park. So I was like, right, literally, let's do the whole colours and have a whole where am I going with my style, and just get
Mm.
into my own groove. I was ready for that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, you know, motherhood is obviously something that shifts us a lot and is like a huge evolution. But there's so many different stages of our lives that we go through those evolutions, whether it's hormonal or whether it's lifestyle related, you know, whether it's divorce or promotion or just personal development through having your own business, or, you know, perimenopause and menopause is another huge transition and evolution for women. So I think it's something that, you know, we constantly come back to because we're not static and we don't just stay the same our whole lives. So I think that's something that a lot of women underestimate as well. It's kind of like, you know, if I've worked a bit on my wardrobe or if I've done my colors or something like that, then that's it. And actually, because your identity shifts, then your style needs to shift with it as well. So you said something that really resonated with me on your form when we were talking about the podcast, that when you started charging more for your services, you felt like your style needed to match that shift as well. And I think that's such a common thing, that we can kind of feel like our style has lagged behind the progression that we've made, whether that's in business or whether it's in a corporate setting. Why was that so important for you?
I think it's quite important to also acknowledge that so many people had an online business, and I did,
Mm,
in that 2020 onwards era. So we were all in lockdown.
yeah.
In like, I ran a digital marketing business, and I didn't need to be, I was permanently behind the scenes. I wasn't seen.
Mm.
So I could literally show up to my job in pajamas or a dressing gown or in a sweatshirt. And
Mm.
I think lockdown made that even more possible.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Or like, yoga pants and then a jacket, if
Yeah.
you're at a meeting. So when the whole, price point thing kind of changed, and I started charging like, 3 times what I used to do, I was like, this has to change. I have to change how I show up and what I look like.
Yeah.
Because I do think as well, with me working so profoundly in the unseen realms, and
Mm.
sometimes people find it a little bit difficult to contextualize, what is she doing? What is this?
Yeah.
Hocus pocus. We need to convey a sense of trust. Like, I think when we look like we've bothered to lead ourselves and put ourselves together,
Yeah.
it kind of communicates, yeah, she's emotionally put together and mentally put together. Is
Mm.
this a trustworthy person who subconsciously, she looks like I can trust? There is that level where you're kind of communicating a whole different level of professionalism, of
Mm.
trust, that sense of, I've got you. Do I look like I've got you? Or did I come in
Yeah.
my dressing gown?
Yeah, definitely. And it is something that we underestimate, I think, because there is that whole thing of, everybody's heard it, that your first impressions are made in the first 7 seconds that you meet somebody. And I think often we find that's quite triggering because it's like, well, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover and all of this kind of thing. But that's human nature. And it's a way that we all connect with each other. And it's a way that we can kind of understand each other is through the way that we express ourselves and the way that we dress. And so it is a really important part of how people trust you and how people connect with your personality and who you are. So if you're right, if you aren't showing up in alignment with, the level of your work and the level of your expertise and the trust that you want to convey, any kind of like incongruence between those two things can make a potential client or an audience or whatever it is feel that misalignment, I think. And we don't think about that enough, I don't think. And it's not meant in like a surface level way. It's like, who am I and what do I want to present to the world? And it's not necessarily, obviously in this example we're talking about people trusting you, so it is about them as well, but it's as much about you and how you feel and how, because I'm sure with this example that gave you more confidence in how you were showing up as well.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
And you obviously mentioned about color as well, and black is obviously an incredible color on you, and it came out as like your strongest neutral within the work that we did on colors.
Yeah.
But I love that you also love playing with color, like especially on screen. And I think some people might see that as like a contradiction because some people are diehard black and like they wouldn't ever, look at bold colors or that kind of thing. But I don't think it is, because I think you can hold both, depending on your personality and what suits you best and your personal brand and all of those things.
Yeah.
How does that work for you, in your business, in your life?
Well, I actually was really pleased when you said that black was my best colour because I always felt like it was. And obviously, I didn't come in my best colour today because I was feeling more in a blue mood.
Mm.
But yeah, I was so pleased when you said that actually about the black because I always felt like it actually made my skin pop. It made me
Yeah.
look correct. But I'd heard over the years, oh, it's so drab, it drains everyone. I thought, I'm sure it doesn't drain me actually.
Yeah.
I was so pleased to get that validation. But you're right, I do love playing with colour and showing up in different styles and colours. And I think really that's partly me expressing myself from the inside out because
Mm.
I address a lot of very heavy topics, but I am actually quite joyful in my personality.
Yeah.
So I do want to communicate that through, and I think clothes is a really easy way to do that.
Mm.
And yellow definitely did not show up on anything, but it's my favourite colour. So I found it's like a designer lemon top
Nice.
in a charity shop, and it's got the square neck, and square neck really suits me. I'm like breaking
Yeah.
all the rules today with a like blue But yeah, when I wear the yellow, I'm like, I know that's not in my colour palette, but it's my favourite colour. Therefore, I want to communicate that sunny disposition.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I sometimes feel like colour moves with you. It's like expressing through you and with you.
And I think that's why I don't prescribe to the setting people in a box,
Yeah.
because everybody's so unique, and so many women say this to me actually about, how can you help me to find my style or to find my signature style, because I have so many different moods and so many different versions of myself that show up, on a day-to-day basis. And that's why it's important not to sit you in a box, because your mood does change depending on, your cycle or what you're doing or, what's happening for you. and what your lifestyle is. And so I think you need to have something that's going to work really hard for you, that can bring out all the different aspects of who you are. And some days that might be elegant, chic, black, or another day it might be really bright, colourful pops of colour, because that's how you're feeling on that particular day. And the opposite of that is true as well. I talk about this a lot in terms of leaning on your clothes for how you want to feel and what you want other people to feel in your presence as well. So if you're having a really rubbish day, but you want to feel more joy or more optimism or whatever, you can lean on your clothes to do that for you as well.
Love
Have you
that.
found that in your experience as well, that that's something that you can do?
Yeah, I mean, literally my whole life long, actually, if I wanted to feel like a little bit more confident than I was, or to really show up like, you're going to listen now, I just put on a red dress. I was
Yeah,
like, it's the most obvious thing.
it's so powerful. I went to a women in business roundtable event at the beginning of the year, and there was a woman there who was in a very male dominated environment, and she was talking about this red dress that she has, that she purposely uses as like a bit of a signal, if she's at a very male dominated event, or she was talking about a particular event that she went to where she knew there was going to be a lot of press and photos taken and things like that, and she wanted to stand out as the woman. Like, she didn't want to be in the background, kind of dominated by all the other men that were there. She wanted to purposely put herself kind of front and center, and she knew that if she wore that statement red dress, not only would she feel that, because she'd feel more confident, but she would be spotted in the pictures and she would be front and center. And so I think we underestimate the power of our clothing to do that for us as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Thank you for the red dress.
Yeah, definitely.
Every woman now is like, right, where's the red dress?
Yeah, everyone's going to go out and buy one now. Another thing that I loved that you said, I always ask people when they are coming onto the podcast, what does a styled life mean to you? And you said living in coherence. So when your choices, your voice, your environment, your expression all match. And I absolutely love that. I think it's just such a gorgeous definition. Where did that understanding come from for you?
I think it's that deep desire to have the external match the internal.
Mm.
And I think it comes from knowing how much, how much I had squirreled away that was true for me, that was going through my heart, my mind, my soul, my body, things that I knew.
Mm.
And having no real safe outlet for that, and then realizing it's actually, historic spiritual suppression. We're all under the same conditioning. This is
Mm.
inherited. I choose to blast that to infinity and beyond,
Yeah.
to the point where, I'm very outspoken and disruptive about what is that inner, the inner unseen realms. And let's get that validated. Let's get it turned inside out. Let's help
Mm.
more people to express the inexpressible and dare to work where there's no frame of reference. So all of that turning inside out feels like it starts to feel more yummy for everybody
Mm.
to be in that overused word alignment. But it's
Yeah,
true, isn't
it's
it?
so true.
Maybe coherence is just a bit of a upgrade on the word alignment. I don't know. But it's when you feel like everything matches.
Yeah, definitely. And I agree that word is so overused, but it's hard to find another word that, does what it says on the tin. Because I think that both of our work, that's what it's all about, is bringing you back into alignment with who you are. And it's really, really powerful. So from the work that you do when you're sort of going deep into identity with
Mhm.
women,
Yeah.
what do you notice about the gap that exists between who someone has become perhaps internally and then how they're still showing up externally? Is that
Mm.
something that comes up a lot, not just, from a style perspective, but communication and presence and all of those things?
in, in all the areas. And I think, if I'm really honest, the way I see it show up most is in undercharging.
Yeah.
I would say the biggest thing that nearly all my clients need to do and they know they need to do it, which is why they come to work with me. And that's why my one-to-one program is called Elevate,
Love that.
because it literally is elevating your pricing, elevating your offers, elevating the way you talk about what you do. And it's so difficult when you've got that. I work with people who are leading with their spiritual gifts normally, or at least they're leading with something they've been shown spiritually that's a little bit intangible. A little, maybe it'd be easier if we were all selling t-shirts. I don't know, but we're not, are we? We're working with different information these days. But it's that gap comes in how you're seeing yourself, because we've been so used to kind of going, what I'm saying is unusual, weird, never been heard before. Therefore, it's tentative. Got to do a lot of that over explaining. Got to look like the good girl because being spiritual is being nice. Right. It's like flipping a lot of those scripts and then realizing actually the more profound are the gifts that you're carrying, and the more complex the soul mission, the more rare your gifts, the more that you need to be creating a life that sustains you, that allows you to feel spacious, good about yourself, really owning your own authority. So actually there's so many areas of life, and then that shows up in how you're marketing, who you're speaking to. Like one of the biggest issues, apart from the whole charging incorrectly, is people with enormous gifts speaking to somebody who's like newly awakening. No, wrong audience. Speak right at your edge, and you're going to bring in the people who are, vibrating somewhere near you.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you shared this before, like I've seen on your socials, about the fact that, and I think this is probably more so for women, but I don't work with men, so I don't know necessarily, that there's almost this misunderstanding that if you do if you are gifted in whatever area you're working in, that it's the two don't go together, like to be wealthy and to be gifted in whatever you're doing, and that it's almost like it's not open to wealth and financial freedom and like all of those things. And I think women generally just undervalue and undercharge themselves and don't see themselves how other people perceive them, which adds a whole other layer into it as well.
Huge. And like historically, these are like an inherited ancestral wounds where we've been taught to, like, not value gifts in the unseen, because that actually leads us to deeper and greater empowerment and reclaiming our own sovereign power, free of being governed by people we don't respect anyway. So that's why it's been shut down. So there's actually a lot of deconditioning to be done on many, many levels. But yeah, when we're working in multiple dimensions, we're actually speaking to people in all of those dimensions. We're speaking on a frequency level as well as the actual words. There's so much going on.
Yeah, definitely. And kind of on that point, you said that you can sort of feel the energy of an item of clothing, like when it's time to let it go. And that you can see, a photo from 2018 and just know. What do you feel is actually happening there from your perspective? Because I think we really underestimate the energy of clothing, like whether it's materials or colors, and how powerful that can be.
Yeah, so I love camera memories. I have camera memories pop up on my phone. It's insane how sometimes I will be wearing the same outfit on the same day and
Oh,
going,
really?
like 18th of March, and it's a green shirt day, or just as an
Yeah.
example. It's like, what? But I think sometimes when you look at a piece of clothing, and the energy of that may connect us back to a particular moment in time, and it's like the energy of it is rooted in that identity. So, for example, we might have a little cute date night dress in our wardrobe, and we think, I look great in that, I love that. But actually, was it a date in 2019 with somebody who broke your heart? Does the dress actually need to go?
Yeah, definitely.
it's a little bit like music. You can hear something and go, oh yeah, 1987 or whatever.
Yeah.
And it kind of reconnects you with the energy of that time.
Mm.
But clothing does it as well, and jewellery. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Right. How did I have I said to you about how um I honestly believe that if you buy jewellery like from a person, I love flea markets, car boot
Mm.
sales. If you buy jewellery from someone, it's like you're actually getting their throat chakra energy and you're
Oh,
wearing it.
really? I've got a ring on today that I bought from a vintage
Beautiful.
place when I was on holiday last year. And it wasn't really until a few years ago that I started to think about that, actually, because obviously everything I do is very rooted in sustainability. And so I end up buying a lot of pre-loved and secondhand and stuff like that. And I love the idea of giving something a second life and like a second story and things like that. But I don't suppose I'd ever really thought about, who that connects to previously and all the energy that can come from that as well. And that's probably why we're drawn to certain things as well.
I think so. I mean, a few years ago, I picked up about three different necklaces that I loved from a lady at a car boot sale. And after a couple of years of wearing them solidly, I realised that I just didn't like them anymore. And that's
Mm,
when it hit home for me. I was like, I loved the lady, I loved her, I wanted her energy. And
mm.
once I'd absorbed that into me, the pieces didn't look the same and I passed them on.
Yeah. And I think I was actually talking to my friend the other day about how, as you just said about music and how it can really take you back to certain moments in your life because it's such like it engages your senses, and clothing does the same thing as well. But I think, as you just said, it's not always attached to like a positive memory or a positive time. And there's something really therapeutic about letting things go that no longer resonate with who you are or who you're becoming or how you want to show up or whatever it is. I think if there's anything that doesn't quite fit the person that you are today, that it's okay to sort of let things go or reimagine them or rework them. And, I think we are all becoming a lot more conscious of our environmental footprint and that kind of thing. So I think people are probably less inclined to do that. But actually, as long as we're doing it mindfully, I think it's actually a really powerful thing to do.
I completely agree. I'm always taking things to the charity shop and I like donating to charity, but equally I like buying things from a charity shop as well because
Mm,
it's the charity that's benefiting both ways round.
yeah.
And then it's allowing you to be mindful about, what you're, the sustainability, but
Mm,
also the energy of the pieces. Because, I remember when we worked together, actually, I'd been in a bit of denial about the weight I'd put on just through getting older,
mm,
not anything I needed to beat myself up about
no.
at all. But I unconsciously was doing by
Mm,
having clothes that are a bit too small, in that whole
mm,
mindset. I might, what might you do?
one
What might
day.
you do? Starve yourself to get into it? No, you're not
Yeah.
going to do that. So just let it go. Let it
It's
go, live
so
its best
true.
life.
I did a podcast episode about this last year, or it might have been the beginning of this year, about that whole scarcity mindset when it comes to your wardrobe, and that it's such a subconscious thing that we don't even realize that we're doing it half the time. We have that one day mentality of like, oh, I'll fit into that one day or that kind of thing, but we don't realize that every day when we're opening the wardrobe and we're seeing it there, that we've got that kind of subconscious feeling of I'm not good enough because I don't fit into that anymore, or I wish that I did, or any of those kind of feelings can actually be quite negative on a daily basis. So actually, if we can let those things go, then it opens up, space for things that actually bring us joy and light us up and give us that kind of renewed energy in some ways.
Definitely. Yeah.
So I would love to talk a little bit more about astrology, because it's something that I personally love, and I think your work's really powerful. So for people who are like unfamiliar, who don't necessarily understand it, other than thinking about, I know what my star sign is, or, that kind
Yeah.
of language. When you're working with a woman's chart, what are you looking for, and what does it reveal that other tools perhaps don't?
Yeah, well, if we just stick with identity, because that's what we're really talking about, isn't it?
Mm.
So, if you've ever seen a astrology chart, I know you have, Alex, but if anybody else hasn't, if you look at the wheel of the astrology chart, it's all split up into 12 houses, and the houses represent different areas of your life.
Mm.
So, the very first thing I would be looking at is the first house. And that's denoted by, you might have heard of your rising sign, and
Mm.
that is the sign that people see you as. So it's like unconsciously, that's how you're portraying yourself. It's like the book cover, your personal sunrise.
Yeah.
So people kind of sense you as the characteristics of that zodiac sign. So the more that you know that and how it works for how you're showing up in life, and this will have been the case since childhood, it's like the first thing that people notice about us.
Mm.
And the more that you work with that and own it, the more that you seem in coherence to other people, and everything kind of matches and adds up.
Mm.
So I'd be looking at the first house, but also the planets in there. So
Mm.
we're working with a number of, layering up a number of different things that are happening. Mine, for example, I'm Scorpio rising, but also I have just one planet in the first house, and that's Uranus, which is a bit quirky and unusual. So if people think I'm a bit unusual, that's great. I am. And then, so that's like nailing in the identity piece. But then over on the other axis, on the seventh house, which is like the personal sunset, this is
Mm.
where we draw in other people. And this can really profoundly give us an idea about the people we are here to serve,
Mm.
especially on a one-to-one level. So if I work with a client who has a one-to-one offer or wants to, elevate their higher ticket one-to-one offer, which is quite usual,
Mm.
I can look at a chart and start channeling, right, okay, this is what
Ah.
your client needs to hear. This is why they're coming to you. So it's
Mm.
like a balancing act. They're seeing something in you. You're grounding and stabilizing an energy, and they are coming and going, I've got a particular wound or an issue. You're going to help me with this thing. So it's wonderful, and like for example, my seventh house is Taurus. So I tend to work with people who want to be grounded, rooted, like the bull, owning
Mm.
their own field, in their own sovereignty. Yeah, protected in that field. My Venus is there, so I'm helping people with their wealth. So
Oh, I
when we
love
start
that.
yeah, when we start looking at how it adds up together, it can be really profound, because when you really embody and understand what your soul already chose and hear it in the right context, then it helps you own, oh, yeah, that's what I'm here to do. And it gives you those things to be able to say when you're vouching for yourself.
Mm.
So it lands because it's truthful, and people go, oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And I don't think, I mean, I have obviously looked at my chart in lots of different ways, but and is so, I mean, I don't want to confuse people who have no idea about astrology, but is that similar to like looking at your seventh house, like your north node and south node? Because your north node is like what you're here to sort of step into, right? And then your south node is kind of where you've been or
Absolutely, yeah. So the nodes are a really sensitive part of our chart. Nothing to do with the first and seventh house, but it's another opposition. We're
mm,
working towards the north node, and it's not intuitive for us, because this is what we have to grow into. And this is why it's so useful to understand about your north node, because it will feel quite challenging. So the more
mm.
information we have about it, the more we can remember, oh yeah, this is who I'm supposed to be. The South Node is, in terms of evolutionary astrology, where we've come from. It's the things that we got under our belt in a previous lifetime.
Yeah, because when you were talking, I was thinking my seventh house is Aries and my north node is Aries as well. So it kind of makes a lot of sense to me in terms of like, as you were saying about the seventh house, like who you're attracting in, but that's also where I'm heading myself or what I'm supposed to be stepping into as well.
Perfect. Yeah, so it's like a double whammy for you, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, it's so interesting. So, in your experience, is there a connection between a woman's chart and how she's drawn to express herself, like visually? And do you see patterns in that?
I do. I do see patterns, although I mean, we did a masterclass about this a while ago,
We
didn't we?
did.
About the different areas of the chart that you can look at to get that
Mm,
information about how you're communicating yourself. And yes, I would, if I was helping somebody with, their identity piece, with how they're appearing on the outside, how they're showing up, what channels they're on, what platforms they're on, what's their key message. I'd
mm,
be looking at the third house of communication. I'd be looking at their Mercury for how they're communicating themselves. If they are very gifted, like if they're a multidimensional channel, I'd be looking at the quality of their Uranus, because that's the bridge to the higher realms. And then also in anyone's chart, I would just look at the 10th house, because that's the career, that's the public facing persona. So the
mm.
sign that's in your 10th house really gives clues as to how you're here to show up on the stage of life.
Interesting. I think the workshop that we did, we looked at rising sign as well. I guess because that's how you're received. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about us being a collective turning point, and I definitely feel the same and having that conversation with a lot of people. Can you share what you mean by that and what it means perhaps for women that are feeling like there's something more, or something's changing but they can't quite name it yet?
Yes, great question. Gosh, I do feel that we are all feeling this collective turning point that's like, okay, the old ways of being and living and the way that we have been, yes, we agree that's dying off. Right, sleeves rolled up, ladies, what are we here to build? It's like, let's actually be the change. Let's move
Mm,
forward. Let's each of us own our individual, unapologetic piece that only we can do, our portion, and really fully own that, be brave enough to say what are the passions and desires, what are the things that we absolutely refuse to take forward, what would we hate to leave as a legacy for our children in the world,
mm,
and keep our eye on, right, okay, what are we going to build then? How do we get to be that change? I think there's such an appetite, that power to the people
mm,
code, how we're like, right, okay, this is about people stepping into their sovereignty, working collaboratively,
mm.
pooling our resources, our ideas, really showing up for what doesn't make sense. Okay, let's do it. It doesn't matter that it doesn't make sense in an old paradigm way. Let's just
Yeah.
go this way.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And have you got advice for somebody who might be listening who feels that she's here for something bigger? Because I think that can be quite scary, can't it? That, it's the kind of that fear of the unknown a lot of time.
Yeah, I think it's that deeply going within, when you get, following that intuition. So, we're not here to hustle in the same ways that we have done, that we've been conditioned to be, you know, good, obedient, productive workers for the system. Like,
Mm,
no,
yeah.
we get to really take a bit of time to deeply go within, focus on our intuition. Time is not running out. I know that
Mm,
our lives, in some ways, yeah, our lives feel short, but time's not running out, and you get more time by really focusing in on your own personal truth, your own emotional truth.
mm,
Yeah, taking that time to work on those self mastery pieces. And, I used to teach, you know, those those self development, personal development, professional development. Now we get to do that with bells on. It's that
yeah.
real deeper soul codes. And when we show up so powerfully and unapologetically in those ways,
Mm.
wow, that's when it's like an explosive level of new world change.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And I think you said you're going through a bit of I think you called it like a rehash yourself right now. What does that feel like when you're in it? Like, even when you do all of this work for a living, are there certain things that you, I don't know, rely on, or certain things that you go to when you're sort of going through that evolution yourself?
Yeah, I think it's really backing my own intuition. I've actually just had a 12 months where I've probably been more of a hermit than I ever have in my life, and it's not natural for me. I didn't like it, but I knew I had to. I
Mm.
knew that I had to take a big, big step back. I've been booted off Facebook twice, which I'm just like, that's fine. It allows me to stay in discernment. So if somebody comes to me, with something that I'm kind of like, have you heard that on Facebook? Because like I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It actually is a strength now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that whole like having to really, I guess it's heal, but more of
Mm.
a really own myself on a
Mm.
whole new level of self trust, groundedness, self backing, allowing myself to just move through life a bit slower, but with more authority.
Mm.
I needed to do that. And at times I thought, I'm so boring. Can I not just like be a bit more pizzazzy? And I couldn't. I had to follow the truth of my inner code. But then
Mm.
as soon as I had my birthday, I was like, something lifted. It's like,
I
yeah,
love that.
the new year changed.
I think I speak to so many people that found that last year, particularly with, year of the snake and shedding and letting go of stuff, and a lot of people hopefully are feeling this year a lot more like the energy's shifted and that they're moving into something new or like another evolution. And it's so interesting because I I was at a networking event at the end of last year and people were talking about, Chinese zodiac and all of that kind of stuff. And I was just sat there reflecting on the fact that a couple of years ago, that would never have been a conversation at a networking event. People have become so much more open to spirituality, to astrology, to human design, to numerology, like all the different modalities. And I suppose social media is actually quite a powerful catalyst for that because that's where a lot of people, get their information. But I think any modality or anything that helps you to understand yourself better is so powerful. And I love that people are being more open now and talking about it a lot more.
And how we get to really embody that. So I know embodiment is like also it's a bit like alignment, it's everywhere, right? But it's the truth of it when we get
Mm.
to truly show up as we really are. Like I'm a projector in human design, and it's taken me so long, like literally, I'm talking 5 years, to actually slow down and see myself as having value by being a very powerful seer and guide
Mm.
rather than doing that
Yeah.
productivity hamster wheel. Like, that is not for someone with my
Mm.
gifts. But because more people understand that now, when you actually say, I'm a projector, people kind of go, ah, that figures.
It makes so much sense. When you just said it then, I was like, yeah, totally.
And the more people understand these different tools of self mastery, the more we kind of go, it makes sense through the lens of witnessing others as well as
Mm.
ourselves.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, this has been so interesting. Thank you so much. I would love to finish on the like quick fire sort of fun style questions with you. Can you tell us what is one item of clothing in your wardrobe that you love the most and why?
Has to be my black leather jacket because it fits and I can wear it with anything.
Love it.
It just kind of elevates any outfit.
Yeah. Oh, it's such a good timeless piece as well that never dates and yeah, just goes with everything. If we opened your wardrobe right now, what would we find way too much of?
Black tops. And it's all Alex's fault because she told me that black was my best colour.
It's funny, a lot of people answer black to that question. And finally, what is an outfit or a trend that you look back and think, I really regret that, or it makes you cringe a little bit, and why?
I mean, literally too many to choose from, but I am actually going to pick a real, like, stunning moment that I always go, seriously, what was in my mind? And I was a child, right? But 1988, 10 years old, I had baggy jeans with motifs of Fred Flintstone on them.
Love it.
What was in my mind?
That's so funny. I used to love the Flintstones when I was little as well.
Me too. They didn't belong on the jeans though. On the
No,
screen,
maybe a
yes.
step too far. Oh, I love it. Thank you. And where can people find you and connect with you and all of those things?
Yeah, find me on Instagram, which is Rachel Maria Bell or quantum_expansion_. And my website is quantumexpansion.co.uk.
Thank you. I will put all of those links into the show notes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I feel like we could have gone into so many different areas, but we were very good in staying focused today.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Thank you for tuning in to A Styled Life. If today's episode resonated, the best way to support the show is to share it with another trailblazer or leave a quick review. And if you're ready to align your style with your next level of impact, head to the show notes to book your free style strategy call. Because when your style aligns with your purpose, the world takes notice.